Thanks, Tony. Well, good morning, everybody. For those that don't know me, as Tony said, I'm Mike Foster. The title that we've come up with today is Social Media to Suit Your Business. This is really a bit of feedback from people who've been on our Business Builder forums before in terms of a title. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at various different elements of social media and exactly that, which ones suit your business. And hopefully to give you some tips to take away. Same as what was on the invitation in terms of today's seminar, in terms of what we will be covering. First of all, obviously the big question, should I actually be using social media in the first place? As you're probably aware, there's this is not all of them, but there's many different platforms in terms of what you can use for your social media. We're going to look at the three market leaders today, LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. But don't obviously still look at some of these. For example, if you've got a blog, keep an eye out on Google+. I'm sure you've all heard that Google+ has now entered the market. So what are these three platforms that we're primarily going to be looking at today? But first of all, Facebook. Facebook is predominantly about friends. It's about likability. It's about people following you. You can have business pages. Then you've got your Twitter. Twitter's your micro-blogging site, as you probably all know the phrase in terms of tweeting. But you are, in fact, limited to 140 characters. That anything that's posted is searchable, either searchable by the individual or searchable by the content. And we'll talk about some of the techniques and some of the phrases that are used in Twitter a little bit later. And then in terms of LinkedIn, LinkedIn is that largest professional network. That's what they claim to be online. What I like about LinkedIn, it enables you to stay connected. Before I come on to that question, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves a little bit in terms of who you are, what your type of business is, and are you using social media? If you are, is there a particular platform that you're using more than another? As you're closer to me, Tony, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Tony Dodds, MD, Chapman Robinson Moore.
So we're going to look at the big question, should I actually be using social media in the first place? Well, I believe social media is for two purposes, recruitment and retention. Actually, a lot of people see social media solely for how do I find my next client. But actually, in terms of your engagement with your existing customers, obviously it's a way of building a subconscious relationship with your existing customers. So in terms of recruitment, you're raising awareness of your brand, if you like. You're raising awareness of what your offering may be. But then in terms of recruitment, we're going to look at some general social media tips to start with. Obviously, the main tip is to use the appropriate platform or platforms to your business. And again, as we went around the room, people will talk about platforms they've chosen, and some pretty good choices by the sound of it. We'll talk about different platforms in a while. In the end, they create interest in you, in your industry, and in your expertise. And then once you create that interest, people will then start to follow you, engage with you, and then be able to create conversation with you. Be social. It is social media at the end of the day, and your goal should be to get people following and liking you and listening to you and creating an interest in yourself. I'm a firm believer you should be a giver and a contributor on social media, as well as a taker. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, in terms of retweeting people's messages, liking and following and commenting on their postings, if you like, not just always pushing your messages out there and hoping someone's going to follow it. At the end of the day, my experience is if you start following people and liking people and engaging with them, they think, oh, okay, what's this person interested in me? And start following me. So quote your social media links everywhere, whether that's on your website, your email footers, or on your web, your business cards, etc. But make sure people are aware that you're on those platforms. And at the end of the day, standard networking rules apply with your social media. Like today, for example, I didn't see anybody walk up to someone and just jump straight in with their sales message saying blah, 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 blah. Yeah? You introduced yourself, you listened to what someone had to say, and then you contribute to the conversation. Do that with LinkedIn as well, or whatever your social media is. Introduce yourself, connect with them, listen to what they have to say, and then have something relevant that you're communicating back to them. Because at the end of the day, if you pester, people will stop following you. So what about which social media best suits your business? The guy talked about Facebook for his pub. Let me give you some examples. I run some businesses called the A1 Group, which is basically based on a professional network gaining referrals from professionals. So my preferred network, my preferred social media for that business is LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, I can set up my complete profile, I can share my expertise, I can get people recommending me, like my testimonial. And I can just prove my value, if you like, through my LinkedIn profile. Some of you will know that myself and Tony own a bookkeeping franchise called A1 Financials. which is fairly new, so you can see that the numbers are quite low in terms of following, etc. But we chose Twitter as our main platform as a way of basically pushing out our message, if you like, because obviously not a lot of people know about a new franchise, so would they actually be searching for A1 Financials? Unlikely, so we're pushing our tweet messages out into the internet, if you like. And to blow your mind even further, I own a children's play centre in Didcot. This furniture here is kindly supplied by Christian's company, just thought I'd add that. But for this business, we use Facebook, yeah? Because most of our visitors for this business are Facebook users, yeah, young families, etc. But the other benefit of Facebook, as you can see there, imagery. Facebook is fantastic for images. And I think someone else said, did you say, architect, did you say you use Facebook? So great, again, great for sharing your images. So coming back to your question on time then. Yes, social media can be fun. Yes, it can be a great way to network and collaborate. But at the end of the day, yes, it can absorb your time. You could basically sit there all day and play with your social media. So some ways to maximise your time. First one, very basic in terms of just compare it to the last time you went to a networking event. So you went to a networking event, how long did it take to drive there? How much time did you have in pointless conversation at that networking event, not meeting the people that you wanted to engage with? And how long did it take you to drive home? Compare that to the amount of time you last did some targeted social media work. Yeah? And again, compare the effectiveness. As with any marketing, marketing objective is know your objective, know why you're doing your social media, know the market that you're trying to target. But the big thing for me is, again, it comes down to time management. Plan your time. I'm a big those that know me, I'm a big fan of my diary management, so I know in a particular part of my week is that is my hour that I'm going to commit to social media. Okay? And when I say an hour, I allocate that in my diary, but after that hour I stop. Yeah? Because I'm keen to make sure I do that social media and make sure it doesn't get hijacked by another appointment. And the reason why I put it in my diary is that I've never missed a client appointment unless I've been ill, yeah? Or it's been arranged. But how many times would you miss things like your marketing activity because it gets hijacked by other things? Yeah. So stick it in your diary, allocate that time, but actually stop when you finish that time. That's a way so you don't get overly absorbed. You can do things like schedule, automate, or outsource. So Owen's mentioned that he's outsourced it. He's decided in his business that it's more perhaps effective for him to outsource it. But you can use tools to schedule and automate your tweets or your LinkedIn posts, etc. And again, I'll share some of those a little bit later. I'll talk about ping in a moment. But the idea of those is that in your hour, perhaps that you've allocated, you can actually set up your whole week's tweets. So even that whole week, they just would pop out during a week's process. And again, you see in terms of some of the email marketing campaigns, all about automation nowadays, autoresponders. And you see great success in terms of repetitive automated campaigns going on. Link your platforms can save time. So those that are using multi-platforms, so like you said, Facebook and LinkedIn, for example, link those so that you're only having to post into one of them. So you might post in your LinkedIn profile that then links to do a tweet LinkedIn as well. If you're going to do that, I would recommend that you post in LinkedIn or Facebook, but then post to Twitter, not the other way around, because you're limited in Twitter on 140 characters, and it might look a little bit weird on your Facebook or LinkedIn profile that you've only got 140 characters. When you link the other way, your tweet hyperlinks your LinkedIn page or your Twitter post. As I said, use tools. I've got a tool called TweetDeck that I use for my tweets. Basically, that's one platform where you can see all your tweets going on, tweets of people you're following, direct messages that people are showing to you in columns, and then things that you may be following. And I follow keywords, so I follow words like bookkeeping, marketing. So some tips, best use of social media. Whatever social media you're using, make sure you've got a complete profile on there. So you complete your LinkedIn profile. If you've got your Twitter profile, you've got your web address up on your Twitter profile at the end of the day. Because predominantly your objective really should be to try and drive people to your website to get that detailed information about you. Be real to yourself and your brand and try and add value. At the end of the day, same as you would do if you were networking, at the end of the day, be human. Because we see some people try and sort of like give a false impression of their business on social media. Right? All that does is disappoint people when they actually meet them. Because actually it's quite obvious that person's been lying or giving a false impression of their business. I believe less is more. So looking at giving your social message posts probably 5 times a week rather than 5 times a day. Time your postings. Think about when you think the people who are going to be reading your postings are likely to be there to read them. Okay? When was the last time you looked at one of your feeds, whether it was on Twitter, whether it was on Facebook, etc.? Yeah? If you sat there and watched it and kept refreshing the screen, they'd be flying through on some of them. Yeah? And actually, if you time it incorrectly, by the time someone actually goes to their platform to read it, whether that's on their phone or on their desktop, laptop, your tweet or your message could have actually gone and be missed. Okay? So think about, if I'm going to be targeting people who are going to be in the rush hour traffic, it's not a good time to be tweeting somebody because there's no chance they're going to be reading it. So let's look at some of the individual platforms themselves. So first of all, look at Twitter. As I said earlier, listen first. Listen to what's being said, listen to what the conversation is. That may be about you, that may be about the sector that you're running, but also who's making those comments, what type of person's making that comment, so that you can actually interact and you can actually add value to the conversation that's more relevant to yourself. With Twitter, you have to be concise because there's 140 characters. Like I said earlier, use links, but don't worry, because sometimes links can be massive, can't they? You can take up the 140 characters themselves. Whatever link you put in, it gets shortened by a tiny URL to 19 characters, so it doesn't use up all of your Twitter posts, which is quite clever. So know the language in Twitter. You've probably heard of retweets, that's when somebody's saying. Consider a brand design for your Twitter page. So Twitter are very kind that when you set your Twitter up, you've got standard templates in terms of colour backgrounds or designs, like a little leaf across the screen, whatever that may be, and you may choose one of those that's personable to your business. But you might want to actually add your own personal design to it, and it is quite easy to do as long as you've got the right size images. And it's all in the settings whereby you can choose the profile and the design background, and you can upload your design background. So for example, on my own Twitter feed, because I'm making very much personal messages for people to follow me, there's a picture of me, God forbid, for those people to follow me. Okay? If you go to a product that I sell, which is a DVD, there's an image of the DVD on the left-hand side. Yeah? So again, think about what you're trying to push across your message and try and personalise your page. Let's move on to Facebook then. A few of the top tips from us for this. Hopefully you're all aware, in terms of those that use Facebook, that over the last few weeks that they've changed your homepage to what's known as a timeline now. So you saw my Facebook example, now it's got a big image at the top and then it's got a timeline of information at the bottom. So the most important thing to consider, the same as your website or any first impression that you're making with your contacts, is think about your appearance, your first impression to that person. Does your imagery that you're using at the top of the page represent your business? Does the messages that they're going to read first off represent your business in the way that you want it to be? Because it's all about likability in Facebook, know your followers, know what they're particularly interested in. Because then when you're posting messages onto Facebook, you know that that's what they're interested in, so they're going to read the message. Yeah? And I think with Facebook, you'll always be quite surprised what people actually follow. And that's one of the challenges with social media, is posting the things that you think people are going to be interested in, rather than listening to what they are interested in and then posting the relevance to get them following you and liking you. Be gracious. People at the end of the day don't have to follow you. Yeah? And at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're endorsing you to their friends. So be gracious in terms of the postings that you're making, and if people do make a comment on your Facebook status, go and like that comment as well. It has been hard work to engage with fans and create your fan base, so don't lose them. Make sure you're communicating and involved with them, and engage with them. One of the best engagement tools that I've seen is a restaurant who on a daily basis post a picture up of their specials board. Not the actual specials board itself, but the first cooked dish. Yeah? Because I can read in the text what's on the special board, i.e. it's XYZ. But actually when I see it, crikey, I want to go and eat that. Yeah? It's a real power of engagement with their followers. As I say, it's important, a great tool for sharing your pictures and images, and one of the important things with Facebook is to make sure you tag people on your imagery. All heard of the check-in feature on Facebook? There's a facility, if you go to a place, if you like, so that might be a business premises, that might be an entertainment venue, etc., you can actually check in. I would suggest that if you are on Facebook, when you go back to your business and you're there, check in. The reason being that it adds it to the business local search facility in Facebook, so other people can then start to find it when they do a local search for what's in their area using Facebook. The other thing with the check-in feature is all across my play centre I've got messages saying there, please check in, please follow us, please check in. Because as soon as someone who's there who checks in, it goes on and shows their followers that they're there. Yeah, so it's basically highlighting my business to all those people that follow them, that they're actually visiting us. And again, it's just subconscious profile. Again, as with all our social media, you can't just sit there and wait for people to like you. Okay? So how can you be proactive in terms of asking people, whether you're visitors or your customers, to actually like you? So you'll see on the bottom of some people's email footers, please like us. Yeah? There might be an incentive. There's a guy that I follow on Facebook. He basically said, like us and I'll send you a free ebook. Yeah? Again, there's an incentivised way of getting people to like him and build his network. And at the end of the day, make the sign-up easy. So you might have on your website a sign-up box, a like box as it's called, to make the sign-up process as easy as possible. Those who are on Facebook, have you come across usernames yet? Again, a new thing that's fairly recently added. You can now go and personalise your username in Facebook. So, for example, your Facebook page might be /MikeFoster/22/A/B. Okay. Yesterday, we changed the username for Chapman Robinson and Moore to Oxford Accountants. The interesting thing with Facebook ads is once you know this information from your insights, it's a little bit like Google's AdWords, but you can actually really drill down your adverts to demographics and profiling. And again, a good thing with Facebook is to join and use groups. So again, with a lot of these social media platforms, you can join groups, people that have similar interests with yourselves. Search for groups that would be in your relevance of your business, join them, and then you can post messages onto those groups. Okay, so that might be messages about events you're running, that might be messages about some information that you want to pass, whether that's your expertise or it's a download of a white paper or a book that you're sharing, etc. But again, the beauty of this is that, again, you're going down to your target market, people who are interested in your type of business. I touched on this just a moment ago, but the actual phrase used on Facebook is called EdgeRank. EdgeRank is about if people interact with you, if they follow you, if they like you, if they comment about you, and they do that in the recent times, it's more likely that you're going to appear on their feed. Okay. Whereas if they're just sort of like liking you for the sake of it, and they're not interacting with you, but they're interacting with all their friends, it's more likely that all their friends will come on their Facebook profile. Okay. So that's predominantly the main things in terms of the use of Facebook and Twitter. And we'll come on a little bit later in terms of how we find contacts in there. We're going to look at LinkedIn, which this is one that was asked for. So moving away from LinkedIn then, how can we gain new connections and followers in Facebook and Twitter? But as I said earlier, the most important thing with these social media is about being seen. It's about, it's exactly the same. Social media is your online networking. So it's the same as if you were, if you weren't out networking with people, you wouldn't be seen, so people wouldn't know about your business unless you were really proactive. When you are making posts, make sure they're interesting, unique and relevant. So taking my dog for a walk is not relevant to some readers, particularly if it's business to business. Said it a couple of times, be an expert, give a reason for why people would want to follow you, why they want to like you. Okay? So for example, on Twitter it might be the expertise, Facebook it may be the product. And we said it earlier, quite got social media links everywhere. The @ sign is known as a handle in Twitter. You've got your Facebook username, and you may see it in a lot of websites or email footers where people have just got the logo, and embedded underneath the logo is a link to that specific page of their Twitter feed or whatever. So how do I find new contacts on Twitter? Well, to find new contacts on Twitter, you've got the facility here in terms of searching under connections and hashtags. So current, what themes people are in terms of hashtags. The connections, the @ button is, do I know a specific name that I want to follow, or if I don't know that, I just put Mike Foster in here, for example, see if I can find it. Or if it's a particular theme, so big theme that I'm sure we're going to see over the next few months is Olympics, hashtag Olympics. Yeah, if I want to find out who's talking about that, I can do that as well. It also gives you some tips about who to follow, and these tend to be finding new contacts on Facebook. Talked earlier about like boxes or like buttons. So on websites you may see a little like button. The ones that I like, they're called like boxes, where you've got the actual like box itself, but underneath it has a feed of what the latest posts are that you've put on Facebook. The reason why I prefer the latter is that people can see the sort of stuff you're posting onto Facebook, and they can see what they're going to engage with rather than just liking blindly. You can buy likes, or you can advertise to get likes. Be proactive in asking people to, Facebook is about imagery as well, so ask people to upload their own pictures and again tag them. So if Mike Foster's uploaded a picture and I put Mike Foster on the tag, that's going to show up on Mike Foster's friends that they've been tagged under a certain page, and that might drive them to my page to look at. Use strong headlines. So again, in terms of what you're posting, don't just, again with any sales or marketing material, don't just blabber on, etc. Make sure you've got a strong message that's going out through there. And again, one of the words you may have heard is called a fan gate, and a fan gate is about creating an incentive for people to sign up as a like with yourselves. I also believe that social media can be a good source of that competitive data for you. And one of the great tools in Google is the Google Alerts. Anybody use Google Alerts? Google Alerts is basically, you can put a search query term in here. You can decide what you want to be results types. That might be everything, that might be blogs, that might be just web postings. Okay? You can decide how often you want to receive that email into your inbox. Mine's normally once a week, let's say. And then you put your email address and create the alert. And then online activity gets picked up by Google and they put that into my inbox. So for example, I might follow the word first aid, I might follow the word social media, I might follow the word the Treehouse Play Centre. And as soon as somebody makes a comment on those things, once a week, an email comes into my inbox and it's got a load of links basically about what someone said about that item or that business. So again, coming back to my very first point, what are people saying about you? Yeah, I would definitely have your business or your own personal name in there, so that any time anybody puts a comment about your business on the internet, a Google alert flags it up to yourself. A, you're protecting your business, aren't you? If someone's wanting to be detrimental about it, but B, if someone's complimenting it, you want to engage with that person, because the internet's so big, you might not know. In Twitter, you can also search, so we're talking about competitor information, you can also search about your competitors. Okay, now, obviously Oxford Accounts is Chapman Robinson and Moore, so I've just used that as an example. Okay, but if that was one of my competitors' handles, their Twitter name, if you like, and I search for that term, it brings up all the names of the people who have commented on that Twitter feed. Okay, why do you think that's important? Well, the reason being is if Oxford Accounts was one of my competitors, yeah, this Ken Frost is saying that one of the top stories about tax matters is Oxford Accounts. Okay, it was an article written by Alan Selden. What's quite interesting then, if that was one of my competitors and they're talking really positively about my competitors, do I want to know Ken Frost? I want to know Ken Frost. I want to convert Ken Frost that he's talking about my business and not one of my competitors. Yeah? So I'm going to follow Ken Frost, I'm going to like Ken Frost, I'm going to get to know what Ken Frost is talking about, I'm going to engage with Ken Frost, and once he likes me, the next post that he puts up is about me. And it may be one of your existing connections that's made a comment, so you might just want to retweet them and say thanks for making a comment. So social media, I've given you quite a lot of information, hopefully something as a bit of a nugget for someone, for each of you to take away. But obviously the key thing is that big question at the start, should I be doing social media? And the important thing with any of your marketing is to make sure you're measuring your return. And each of you will have your own measurement in terms of am I getting value for that. And just to share some of the examples with you, ask for your new prospects. So people that are coming into you as a business, that might be someone who's signing up as a new accountant, someone who's taken one of your holiday pay schemes, someone who's signing up on a first aid course, etc., etc., etc. Ask them, how did you find out about me? And you'll be surprised, some people will come back and say, it was through Twitter, it was through LinkedIn, whatever it was. So monitor your reach on LinkedIn, the number of active followers you've got on both Facebook and Twitter. That gives you a measure in terms of your social activity. Am I starting to engage with a wider group of people? And remember what we said about our reach in terms of LinkedIn. So as I increase this number, so my latest number I think is about 207 since I took this slide now. And again, I'm not really focused on making this number 1,000. I'm making sure it's a number of quality contacts that I've got in there. Okay? But I can see as soon as I increase that to 207, does this drop to 3 million or whatever that may be. But remember what I said, my key number is this one. Who's 2 degrees away? Who likes my likes? Because what I want to be doing is talking to people who like me, who respect me, who are in my professional network, and establishing who they can introduce me to in the appropriate way. So use analytics to track your referrals. How many people have got something like Google Analytics or a website analytics on their website? Yeah? So you can see why people are coming to your website, how they're getting referred into your website. Yeah? So again, if someone comes through your Twitter feeds, that's going to show on your Google Analytics to say, okay, what you posted was successful. So again, learning your own Twitter feeds or your own Facebook feeds about what people engage with, there's a great measurement tool to say, that's the sort of thing I should be talking about. Interacting with you. And a simple measure is how many online conversations do you take offline. So if you're engaging with someone on Twitter or on Facebook or LinkedIn, there's only so far you can take that. Then it's about, okay, let's get together, let's meet, let's talk about whatever you're interested in, etc. And how many of those can you progress? I've only talked about 3, the 3 market leaders as I sit at this moment in time. But if there is a 4th, keep your eye on YouTube. So like I say, be proactive at all times to ask people to follow you. So please do follow Chapman Robinson Moore at Oxford Accounts. Again, and we'd like to think we're always giving you timely information, but this basically gives you some of the latest information that we're talking about.